right now.
I said there'll be a tie.
And
Hopefully.
My phone worked in with me.
item 32.
Item 32 is a proposed ordinance amending Article 4 of Chapter 70 of the Pinellas County Code related to wage theft and recovery. The public hearing was properly advertised. The affidavit of publication has been received for filing. No correspondence has been received. The matter is properly before the board to be heard.
Well, can we have a short presentation on this?
Very short, to
Well,
the extent that it's...
not too short.
And if you have questions, of course, we'll answer them. For the record, Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Administrator, County Attorney, my name is Paul Valenti. I have the privilege of serving as your Human Rights Director, and I have my colleague from the County Attorney's Office who I'll allow to introduce himself.
Hello, nice seeing you guys again.
Hello.
I saw you the last time I got introduced, but I'm Dericky Gayuka, Assistant County Attorney.
Hi.
And Attorney Gayuka was instrumental in helping craft the language that's before you in the proposed ordinance amendments. As you recall, Commissioners, in January of 2016, the wage theft amendments, ordinance became operative. We administered it for several years. You asked us to monitor it in its administration and come back to you with proposed amendments to make it more effective. We did so earlier last year, 2019. These amendments before you this evening, we are hoping would be the last amendments for some times. And what they seek to do is make our county ordinance read a little more substantially equivalent to the City of St. Petersburg's ordinance, particularly as it relates to providing notice to employees of who their legal employer is, the promised rate of pay, when payday occurs, and how pay is to be structured, and notice of rights under the ordinance to complain about wage theft if they think it occurs. If the ordinances, the amendments pass, and our ordinance reads more holistically with the City of St. Pete's, the hope is that in turn the city will repeal their ordinance and allow for one countywide wage theft ordinance to be in place for enforcement by our office. So that's why we're here this evening, and of course we're available for questions you might have.
Do we have any questions?
No questions for me.
No questions. Okay.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right
thank you
then.
for your time.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks. We have a motion from Commissioner Long, second from Commissioner Eggers. And we're ready to vote. Sorry. Okay, item 33.
Item 33 is a resolution supplementing the fiscal year 2020 budget for unanticipated fund balances in the surface water utility, capital projects, solid waste renewal and replacement, water renewal and replacement, and sewer renewal and replacement funds. The public hearing was properly advertised. The affidavit of publication has been received for filing. No correspondence has been received. The matter is properly before the board to be heard.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Eggers, second from Commissioner Long, and we're ready. Okay, item 34.
Item 34 is case LU-30-12-19. It is an application of KGGK Venture LLC for a change in land use from residential office retail to commercial general. The public hearing was properly advertised. An affidavit of publication has been received for filing. One letter in opposition to the application has been received. The matter is properly before the board to be heard.
Okay. Do we need a presentation on this? We have 3 cards, but they're all in favor.
I'll move approval.
Excuse me?
I said I would move approval
Okay.
if there is no presentation.
Second. Right, motion from, I'm sorry, my brain's not here. I forgot to bring it back with me. Motion from Commissioner Peters, second from Commissioner Long, and we are ready then. missing. Charlie left. Oh, Charlie. Oh, okay. Item 35.
Item 35 is a quasi-judicial hearing for case number ZLU-15-09-19. All those wishing to give testimony, please stand and take the oath.
It's both.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
Hey, who's filled out a card?
In the testimony you're about to give, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Oh,
This is an application for McMullen Booth 2AC3 2019 Trust Martin J. Rosado, trustee for a change in a land use from recreation open space to institutional and a zoning change from RA residential agricultural to LI limited institutional with a development agreement limiting the use on the property to a one-story medical office having a maximum size of 18,000 square feet and requiring additional development parameters. The public hearing was properly advertised. An affidavit of publication has been received for filing. One letter and a petition with 19 signatures in support of, and 3 letters and a petition with 82 signatures in opposition to the application have been received. The matter is properly before the board to be heard.
thank you. Let's have a staff presentation on this.
Good evening, Glenn Bailey, zoning manager. In this case, and this is both legislative and quasi-judicial, so it's got both land use and zoning components to it. There's a 2-acre parcel on the east side of McMullen Booth Road, about 900 feet north of Curlew Road. It's between Curlew Road and Tampa Roads. And the future land use map amendment request is from recreation open space to institutional, and the companion zoning atlas amendment is from residential agriculture to limited institutional. It also involves a development agreement, which I'll get into more detail in a few moments. The existing use of the property is vacant, and the proposed use is a dentist office. We see an aerial general area. See the subject property outlined in red, the north-south corridors, McMullen Booth Road. To the south, you see Curlew Road, and diagonally from the northeast to south, northwest-southeast is Tampa Road. See in the, let's see if I can point to it. There we go. This is a commercial area. It's Boot Ranch as you enter East Lake, Tarpon. Oldsmar, some commercial activity in Oldsmar is here. That's where the theaters are. Just give a perspective of where we are here. The East Countryside Hospital just to the south off the screen. This is a Curlew Creek Elementary School, and there are assisted living facilities all along McMullen Booth Road, as well as other medical offices to the south. This is a multi-family residential development directly to the west across McMullen Booth Road. There's another one to the northwest. A single-family development in this area here, and more residential. So it's kind of a mix of uses in this area. All throughout here, other than the subject property, is owned by either Pinellas County as stormwater retention areas or by the Swift Mud. This is the Lake Tarpon outfall canal through here as it goes down towards Safety Harbor. So here you see all in the white color, that's incorporated areas. We have Oldsmar here, Safety Harbor down here, and Clearwater here. Everything in color is unincorporated. See, right now, this is rec open space along the east side of McMullen Booth Road, the institutional school here. This is lower density residential and more higher density residential here. The mixed use of offices and commercial signifying the Boot Ranch area to the north. See, if it changed, it would go to that same blue color as institutional that the school is, and further south there in the cities, but they would also be that color blue for the hospital and all the medical offices. It's another closer look at the surrounding area to give you a better, closer in perspective of the multifamily and the elementary school, the assisted living facility. That is the Lake Tarpon outfall canal, the control structure for the water, prevent floods and things like that. This is commercial area of Oldsmar here. Here's site photos. This is the subject property looking south and west from the subject site, south towards Curlew Road, and to the west you can see the residential development, multifamily residential development over the trees here. Looking north and east from the subject site, see north towards Tampa Road, and this is the outfall canal from the property, subject property. Some background information on this property. It was formerly county-owned. It was part of a 2005 land swap with the Southwest Florida Water Management District. At that time, utilities had proposed a water tower on that site, but there was a lot of public opposition to that, which led to the land swap for property to about 1,000 feet to the northeast. And that has subsequently been developed, and the SwiftMud sold the property as surplus, the subject property, in 2014. Just want to show you where that tower is. You can see the tower they built right here. So we swapped that property with SwiftMud. Also importantly, the applicant requested a similar amendment in 2016. It's the same potential buyer, proposed dental office. But that case did not include a development agreement. It did not address some of the traffic concerns staff had, other concerns. And the LPA recommended denial, staff recommended denial, and it was withdrawn prior to it got to the Board of County Commissioners. Since that time, the applicant has returned with a development agreement that would limit the use to a medical office only, so you couldn't have all the other potential institutional uses. It would be 1 story only, and 18,000 square foot maximum size. It's about a third of the maximum potential you could get on that property without a development agreement. It also includes enhanced landscaping along McMullen Booth Road, which is a scenic non-commercial corridor, additional buffer widths, and more trees. Side access and roadway improvements are also in the development agreement, including the construction of a northbound right turn lane, access right in, right out only, so it's pretty simple. Also modifications to median opening to prevent left turns, and I'll show you a diagram of these in a moment, and all of this will be at the owner's expense. You see the concept plan, it goes along with the development agreement. You see the enhanced landscape along the scenic corridor. You see the deceleration lane they're proposing to construct here, so you wouldn't much impact on the flow of traffic. It's a right in, right out only. And right now, this is an open median to the residential development to the west, and it would have certain design there that prevent, there'd be left in, left out only, and prevent cross access there. And the applicant, I'm certain, will speak more in the details of that in a moment. Here's another conceptual diagram of that, showing you again the side access here, restricted access, right in, right out, and the median channelization. Here's elevations of the property. You can see what the building would look like and the landscaping in front of it. See the 1 story, approximately 18,000 square feet. The recommendation is that the proposed amendments are appropriate with the assurances from the development agreement. And site development is difficult as is because it is a small size property. It's privately owned. You can only do a couple things in there, maybe a park or playground. That's about it under the current zoning and land use. We feel it would not set a precedent in the area because the other properties along that stretch of roadway are publicly owned. And the roadway enhancements do provide a public safety benefit in this case. Staff recommends approval, and the local planning agency recommended approval on a 3-2 vote. Do you have any questions?
Questions? No?
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
Just real quickly, let me try to get to my list of questions. I might just, here we go. And some of them I'll ask the applicant in just a little bit. Scenic land use corridor. Just your thoughts as to it relates to adding a commercial piece, number one, and with all like-kind zoning and land use on that side, inserting something that's different, that's substantially different. Just your thoughts on both of those issues and how much were they considered?
The scenic corridor generally supports lower density residential or light intensity uses. However, you can put certain limited office uses and also institutional uses along the corridor. Hence, we have the hospital to the south is along the same corridor. It is institutional, a lot of medical offices through here. You have the elementary school, which is quite close to the subject property. And we did consider that, and again, we don't think it would set a precedent because all these other properties here are publicly owned. So we did definitely consider that. And they're going to put additional landscaping in there that's more than is required by the code. So it would provide more of a buffer.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Can we hear from the applicant?
20? Okay.
Good evening. I'm Ed Armstrong. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hillward Henderson. We are located at 600 Cleveland Street, Suite 800 in Clearwater. If land use cases had a theme, the theme of this case would be, we listened. This property was the subject of an application in 2016. The staff was opposed to it. The LPA unanimously recommended denial. That application was withdrawn. The application you have before you tonight is very, very different. And our presentation is going to explain those differences in great detail. The changes and restrictions agreed to by this applicant had one thought in mind, which is how can we mitigate potential impacts to our neighbors? We believe this application affirmatively responds to the concerns expressed by our neighbors on the west side of McMullen Booth and the concerns that were previously raised by the county's professional zoning staff. I'm going to ask Cindy Terrapini to come forward. She's a planner working with me on this case and explain the application in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Madam Chairman, and members of the Commission. My name is Cindy Terrapini with Terrapini Planning Strategies at 128 East Tarpon Avenue in Tarpon Springs. And along with Ed and the rest of our team, we represent Dr. Michael Picos, who is the applicant on this application. He is the contract purchaser of the site, and you'll hear from him at the end of our presentation. I've been an urban planner for over 38 years in both the private and public sectors in the Tampa Bay region. Let's talk first about the unique features of this site. It's only a 2-acre site, and it is not adjacent to any residential buildings, any residential plan categories, or any residential zoning. I think that's really an important fact. The site is bordered on the east by the Lake Tarpon outfall, on the north and south by county and DOT properties and Swiftmud properties in public use, and on the west by McMullen Booth Road. And this, I think, addresses perhaps Mr. Vice Chairman's comment and question. Is the only privately owned parcel on the east side of McMullen Booth between Tampa Road and Curlew Road. All the rest of those parcels are owned by DOT, Swiftmud, or you yourself at Pinellas County. Pinellas actually owned this parcel in 2005 when your proposal to put a water tower was opposed by the Landmark Oaks condos located directly to the west of our site. And due to opposition from this condominium, the county canceled that proposal, moved the water tower further away from the residential, and sold this piece to Swiftmud. In 2014, Swiftmud declared this 2-acre parcel surplus, and a private property owner purchased it, and it's been in private ownership for 5 years. The only reason this site is still designated rec open space is because of that public ownership. Now that the site is privately owned, the rec open space category is really no longer appropriate, especially as even your staff recognize at this size site, not on any water, not on a beach, nothing, really no real amenities to it. There is really no physically possible or financially viable recreational use as a private landowner. We are asking for the institutional plan category, which is the same category the Commission has approved on 3 other sites on McMullen Booth Road. And as your staff pointed out, you could almost call McMullen Booth Road Medical Booth Road for all the medical office uses along both to the north at Tampa Road and McMullen Booth Road, and the whole hospital complex to the south, the Meese Countryside Hospital, which also has, as you know, many surgery centers, other doctors' offices, and clinics. In addition, along this institutional section of McMullen Booth Road are many churches, which you all have, I'm sure, have seen those as well. As the staff mentioned, a similar application was filed in 2016 for the same site, but without a site plan, without a development agreement, which we have before you today. There were concerns by both the staff and the Landmark Oaks residents, and before we submitted an application to the county, we sat down and met with the Landmark Oaks residents in June of 2019. We also had 2 meetings with your county staff. We listened to everyone's concerns, and we made every attempt to resolve these concerns. I'd like to walk through them in a little bit of a detail. At our meeting with the Landmark Oaks, Dr. Picos explained his unique oral surgery practice and how he had outgrown his existing office on Tampa Road. He desires to build a new building because that would allow him to design the floor plan and incorporate all of the high technology and computer-aided design that he uses in his oral surgery practice. Also, this site is in proximity to his existing client base, and for all of these reasons, it's an ideal site for his office. At the meeting with Landmark Oaks, we presented the same concept plan and the same road improvements that we are going to show you tonight. So I'd like to explain in detail how we revised our applications to meet everyone's concerns. First of all, there was a concern that you could build anything you wanted on that site. Well, in the DA, the development agreement, we have stated that medical office is the only use that is allowed. Out of all the uses that are allowed in limited institutional, medical office is the only allowable use. The medical office will only be open on Monday through Friday during normal business hours. They will not be open on the weekends. The development agreement further states that the maximum building size is 18,000 square feet. As your staff mentioned, about a third of what you actually could build according to the zoning district. And the development agreement states that the maximum height is 1 story, where the zoning district would allow 50 feet. All of these commitments are enforced by specific written provisions in the development agreement. Another concern was that there was no site plan to provide any certainty about the design of the site. And the staff has showed you this in their, hope you're seeing it now. You saw this on in the staff presentation, but I'd like to go over a couple of things. Again, the site shows the 18,000 square foot building, parking more than enough, parking more than required by code, a conceptual place for stormwater, and the landscaping that would be along the property. There's only one driveway entrance to the property, and I'll talk about that in a little more detail in just a second. The second issue was that there was no traffic study to evaluate the project's impacts on the road network. Well, with this application, we submitted a traffic study prepared by Michael Razor, a licensed traffic engineer. And what he found that the new office trips are 1/2 of 1%. Let me repeat that. 1/2 of 1% of the existing cars that are on McMullen Booth Road today. Today, McMullen Booth Road is operating at LOS B adjacent to the site. B is in boy, where D is acceptable. When you add in those new trips with less than 1% of the new trips, there will not be any degradation in the level of service of McMullen Booth Road. The county staff in their report agrees with these conclusions that there will not be any impact to the operation of McMullen Booth Road. Mike Razor, the project's traffic engineer, is here today, should you have any questions for him. The next exhibit I'd like to show you is responding to the concern by the Landmark Oaks residents that they have difficulty entering and exiting their site. This median opening here today is the entrance to their project. This is the one entrance. They only have one entrance to their project, and it is on McMullen Booth Road. They especially noted that they have difficulty entering and exiting during peak traffic times. Although this is an existing situation, it's not created by or worsened by Dr. Picos' proposed office. He desires to be a good neighbor and wants to help make an improvement to this road, to this particular median and this access to the Landmark Oaks development. Our proposal is to improve this median opening. This will become what the staff called a pork chop for a descriptive thing. It would be a raised median. Residents that are returning to their home in Landmark Oaks will still be able to turn left into their site. Residents leaving their site, of course, could always turn south. They will also be able to turn north and go take a left out of their development and go north, just as they can do today. What it does that's new is prevents any traffic coming south to make a left turn into the office site. That left turn by future office users, office clients would not be available in this particular situation. We also propose to extend this turn lane so there will be adequate stacking spaces for folks as they're coming home to Landmark Oaks to make that turn. Again, these are enforced by specific provisions of the development agreement. They're also enforced by this site plan that you see in front of me. It is an exhibit to the development agreement. Another concern was the site access to our site. And so, as shown on the concept plan, and as we're showing here, also there will only be one driveway to this property. It'll be located on the very north edge of the site. We will only allow right in and right out movements. Again, this left turn will not be allowed. And because of this new median, this new pork chop here, leaving the site, no cars will be able to turn south, or turn left out of that site. So again, right turn, right in and right out only, enforced by a raised median. We also, as the staff said, we propose to build this right turn lane so that folks can have a stacking area to turn into to the development. Again, this is enforced by specific provisions of the DA and this Exhibit C, which is adopted as part of the development agreement. The existing site contains a mound of fill dirt that appears to have been placed there when Tampa Road was built. The staff report recognizes that due to this fill dirt, the site is not, quote, environmentally pristine, and we certainly agree. Some of the residents stated that they would be affected by this proposed one-story office building. Apparently, they'd rather continue to look at the fill dirt than a nicely maintained office site. But in all seriousness, there will not be any impact of this project on the Landmark residents. There are only 2 condo buildings that are across from the office site, and let me show that to you on this exhibit. This is a Landmark Oaks development here. There are 2 buildings that are adjacent or in proximity to our office site, which is in green. This is the pool pavilion for Landmark Oaks, and this is the 4th Landmark Oaks building, but as you can see, it's really more closer to the county-owned property and the Swiftmud property. On these 2 buildings that are in some proximity to our site, it is the sides of those 2 condo buildings that are facing the office site and today face 6 Lane McMullen Booth Road. But between these 2 office buildings today, between these 2 condo buildings today, there's an existing buffer of trees and landscaping on the condo site, on the residential site, and 6 lanes of McMullen Booth Road before you even get to the edge of the new office proposal. The new office building will be set back from McMullen Booth at least 100 feet, approximately 100 feet, and therefore the closest condo building to the closest edge of the office building will be more than 330 feet, more than a football field apart, and separated by 6 lanes of McMullen Booth Road. In recognition of McMullen Booth Road's status as a scenic non-commercial corridor, we are proposing enhanced landscaping, and again, these are embedded in the development agreement. We are doubling the width of the landscape buffer. We are adding 25% more trees along that corridor, and we are doubling the size of the trees at planting. With the existing landscape buffer on the condo site, the proposed landscape buffer on the office site, the significant distances of at least 330 feet between buildings, and 6 lanes of McMullen Booth Road, these factors virtually eliminate any negative impact of the office as viewed from the condos. The site meets all the Land Development Code criteria for approval. It is privately owned. There is no private for-profit recreational use that is financially viable, as your staff has agreed. As stated in the staff report, it will not set a precedent since there is no other privately owned parcel on the east side in this segment of McMullen Booth Road. At the LPA meeting, County Staff Member Glenn Bailey confirmed, and your staff report also states the site is not in the 25 or the 100-year floodplain. And obviously, just like every development throughout Pinellas County, we will be required to go through the Swiftmud and Pinellas County permitting process and retain all of our stormwater on site. The traffic study confirmed the new office traffic will not change, will not degrade the level of service on McMullen Booth Road. And this approval is consistent with 3 other approvals you've done in the last 4 years. But most importantly, the development agreement as a binding perpetual contract accompanies these 2 applications. The DA is binding agreement between the county and the owner requiring the developer to comply with all the provisions we've talked about today, and just run through real briefly again. Only medical office, maximum building size, maximum building height, only 1 driveway with channelized right and in and right out, enhanced landscaping to address the scenic corridor, and the roadway improvements at the median opening for the Landmark Oaks development. As I mentioned earlier, we reached out to our future neighbors in Landmark Oaks and met with them before we submitted to the county and presented the site plan that you've seen today and these road improvements. After understanding Dr. Picos's business and the restrictions of that development agreement, some of the residents spoke in favor of the application at the LPA meeting, saying that they didn't see any negative impact on their homes. At the LPA meeting, there were other residents who did not support the application, but did not provide us any suggestion to improve on the site plan or the median improvements. Some of these same residents in Landmark Oaks also opposed the county's proposed water tower on the site, so it appears they might object to any use on this site. As noted in the staff report, the LPA voted 3-2 to recommend approval. That tracked your staff recommendation of approval, but the 2 no votes did not offer any explanation for their votes. We respectfully request your approval of these applications to allow Dr. Picos, an existing oral surgery business with 36 years in Pinellas County, to expand with a high-wage, highly skilled staff and offer this unique healthcare business to the citizens of Pinellas County. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Michael Picos as the last part of our presentation tonight. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Picos, and I am a Pinellas County resident since 1983, also in private practice as an oral surgeon since 1983. I'm founder of Coastal Jaw Surgery, which is a very unique, multidisciplinary, surgical-based dental practice, the only one of its kind in Tampa Bay. And I'm also founder of the Picos Institute, which is a very unique teaching center, 30 years now, where we're known for our research, our surgical skill sets, and for our high technology. I've been able to personally train more than 4,000 clinicians from all 50 states and 43 countries over the 30 years. With that said, my practice is dental implant based, and my real focus is on helping the dental cripple, the folks who come to us with not just missing teeth, but bone and gum tissue. And many of them are so debilitated that they're turned down by other clinicians, even other surgeons throughout the state. They literally have a poor quality of life, to say the least. And the long and short of it is, traditionally, we would treat them with bone grafts from the hip or from the leg, etc. A very debilitating kind of surgery, costs a lot, and would take 1.5 to 2 years of treatment. Today, we have computer-based technologies to really accelerate the treatment process such that in one visit for a number of our patients, we can place dental implants and permanent teeth at one session. The technology is amazing, and we restore these folks to their improved quality of life and give them back a life that they just didn't have before. They can eat and chew like they never did. Unfortunately, with that said, our existing facility we've outgrown on Tampa Road. For a number of years now, we only have 25 parking spaces and no room to grow physically with the building. Because of our specialized nature of our practice, we would like to, and I would like to, build something from the ground floor up to design what we're after in terms of being able to have workflow, the appropriate lab work, et cetera, that's required for the entire process of this very specialized work that we do. Because under one roof, again, we can treat our patients comprehensively. Unfortunately, there's nothing else in the area that allows us to do this. But we have listened, and in fact, to our staff and to our neighbors at Landmark Oaks, as Ms. Terrapini mentioned, we met with them in June of last year. And I sincerely want to be not just a good neighbor, but actually a great neighbor for them. And very sensitized to their requests and concerns, and especially aesthetics. It's a one-story building, residential by design. That's what I would like, with earth tone colors to blend into the environment. In terms of traffic issues, that's been addressed, and I think you've understood now the changes that we're proposing or that have been mentioned, and at my cost, which is no concern for me at all. I sincerely want to reach out to them ongoing, not just once I would be into the complex, but to make sure that we are maintaining a tremendously great relationship. So the issues of flooding and other property values, I think really are not going to be issues at all. So with that said, I would like respectfully request the proposed amendment to be passed to allow us and our team to actually continue to do our subspecialty work in a very positive way for our citizens of Pinellas County. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're finished. We would like to reserve our remaining time for closing argument and rebuttal.
Do we have any questions? No? Okay.
Sounds like a great project.
Okay, we have a number of speakers who would like to speak. We do for the pros first, right?
Generally, yes.
Okay. I have Karen Groff.
Hi, my name is Karen Groff, and I've lived in Landmark Oaks for about 6 years. I have owned a business in Pinellas and then Hillsborough County for 15 years. I truly want the best outcome for everyone, my neighbors, and all the Pinellas County residents, and I support this building project for that reason. I've done a lot of checking and research to come up with 5 reasons why I think it'd be a very advantageous building for us to have there and business. For one thing, I think it will improve our traffic situation. Having lived there for 6 years in and out of there all the time, I can tell you that the road improvements that will be made at the petitioner's expense, not the taxpayer expense, will actually be a big improvement to that area. Those were detailed in length at the December meeting that I attended, and I was very impressed because I think it will be a safe access to his site with no left turns, no U-turns in our entrance area, which is a problem for us when we're waiting for people to make those U-turns, and the medians will be much improved. I do think it will be a very good thing for our development in the traffic area. I don't think we're going to see any increased development along there because that site is so small and the rest of it's public land. Unless it comes through a whole zoning change, we are not going to see any other development there. I don't think we're going to have any problem with our property values because I have checked with 3 different real estate agents. They've all told me that that development should enhance our property values, and personally I kind of like increased property values. I think we all would enjoy that. Right now that site kind of looks like an unmaintained field. You look out there and it's not mowed, it's all grown over. We have a lot of Brazilian pepper plants over there. You may know it's the most aggressive non-invasive plant in Florida. It can be toxic to birds, wildlife, and a lot of people. It reacts like a poison ivy allergen when you touch it, so I don't think we would mind losing those Brazilian peppers over there. It also will not impact our flood zone. We've been told that. That mound is not to mitigate flooding. It is just a place where debris was dumped, which is why the Brazilian peppers took over. It's invasive. I do think one of maybe my unique reasons for really checking into this is because I have owned a business. I was absolutely shocked at the business impact over the years that we have. I have a small business, but I pay a lot of taxes. And I think it would be good for Pinellas County to have those taxes so we would have that revenue.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
James Groff. No? Is Mr. Groff not here?
I didn't want to speak.
Oh, okay. Okay, got a card for you.
I talk for him.
All right. You guys talk to each other. William DeBellos. There you are.
Hi. I'm a resident of Tarpon Springs, and I went to see the doctor because I needed some dental work done, and I've had a problem all my life. When I was 12 years old, I ran in a basement playing tag, and I missed the pole. When I went down, cracked my front teeth where they were like points, and for 5 years, going through school, I heard nothing but ridicule. So believe me, I know the song, All I Want for Christmas Is My 2 Front Teeth. I know it real good. Anyway, through the years, what they did was they made posts. They put my caps on. The original posts were made from my original teeth. They broke, then they put metal posts. 50 years later, now we got gingivitis, we got other things going on. This whole top is brand new. Dr. Pico's put it in, and I tell you what, life has been a lot easier since I've had it put in, and they don't make fun of me anymore. And I got the song down, but I just came here to tell you what a good thing he did, and my thing is, it's a one-stop shop. I've been through the dentist so many times since 16 years old. I had to wait to 16 to get my first caps, so I know what it took. And he had me in a chair for 5 hours. I took 2 pain pills after that, and it's all over with. Now it's like changing a tire. I go in every 6 months, they take it out, clean it, it's good to go. So all I've got to say is, he does something that not too many people that I know of can do. And I think it'd be an asset to have him there.
Well, your teeth are gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're
The
welcome.
bottoms are mine. His daughter took care of that. This was a whole family deal. I had his whole family down on my throat, you know? Anyway, I just wanted to let you know he did a real good job, and I'm very, very happy.
They look great.
Thank you.
Okay. Peg Capolongo?
Hello. So I have a similar story, except that I was born without second teeth. So can you imagine by the time you're the age of 12 or 13, your teeth are falling out of your mouth, but nothing's coming back. So I've lived with that for many, many years. Started on a journey to find somebody who could help, because what happens when you don't have any teeth is your bone deteriorates and it's reabsorbed by your body. So you get to a point where I was at, where I had a jawbone so tiny that I couldn't eat anything and was always in fear that if I got hit or I fell or I ran into something, that it would crack. So I started searching for dentists and oral surgeons and anybody who could help me. Went through a lot of them from New York to Pittsburgh, got down here to Florida, found Dr. Picos, and in about a 3 to 4 month period, I went from being terrified to eating. I eat now. He did a wonderful job. The staff is amazing, and I think they're just going to enhance any community that they grow into.
Great story.
It's a great testimony.
You're welcome.
Okay. Michael Racer?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm the traffic consultant for the applicant. I filled out a card. I'll be here
Okay.
for any questions.
Okay. I think we got your report. Deborah Mader or Maida? Okay.
Okay, I'm Deborah Maida. I am one of Dr. Picos's patients. In fact, my family is his patients because he has worked on me, put all my teeth in, uppers and lowers, and they've done wisdom teeth extractions and all for my granddaughter and my youngest daughter. And the thing that I wanted y'all to know that he's not like any other doctor. Because my friends have had similar things done and all, and they do a in, out, oh yeah, you need it, it's done. But with him and his staff, they make sure that every individual has the proper procedures for them. They don't rush you in and say, okay, we're going to do it, come back in an hour, we'll do it again, we'll finish it. They make sure that you are taken care of and the proper procedures are done. And they worry about your health and everything all in the process, not just what has to be done. And so with all the technology and all the way he does his stuff, he really does need more space because he does, I wrote something and didn't even read it, sorry. He makes sure that everything is proper and it's done what you need. Because like someone said, you may need the bones. Some just need more gums or just other things. But he makes sure that each individual person gets the procedure done that they need done, not a drugstore pickup.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Leisha Belisna? Was that even close to how you say your name?
My name is Lucy Bijlsma. I'm a patient from Dr. Picos, and I'd like to tell you my experience with Dr. Picos. I have lost quite a few of my teeth, and one time I was in a restaurant and I almost choked. So that was for me the decision making to have looked after and put implants in. I visited several dentists and nobody was willing to cooperate with me what I really wanted. They want to have an implant here, implant there, you know, all the stories. So finally I was in contact with Dr. Picos and I was impressed from the first moment. The way he explained things to me, very professional, very upfront, and that's why we went from there. He took care of my mouth. One of the major things what developed, he is a teaching professor, I might say that, and he asked me when I had my procedure done if he was allowed to put a camera in my mouth and then use that for teaching to the dentist, what I gladly, of course, gave into that. I highly recommend Dr. Picos and his team. It's very professional. They take the time. You are a patient, you are not a number, and that's what sometimes is not the way it is if you go to a dentist office. They rush you out of the door. The follow-up on after the surgery, again, it took a few months, but the follow-up was always amazing. They took their time. They went with me over everything, and they explained to me what to expect, what not to expect. The surgery itself, I had no pain at all. I was a little bit blue, but I had no pain at all. So I'm be able to chew food again properly, what is affecting, of course, my health, and I'm very pleased with that. And every year I follow up with Dr. Picos for the last things. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to those opposed. Angela Lockwood.
Good evening. My name is Angela Lockwood. I am on the Board of Directors of Landmark Oaks Condos. On January 22nd, the year 2020, I contacted the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office and asked if I could get a copy of all traffic stops, violations, and accidents that happened on McMullen Booth Road from Curlew Road to Tampa Road for one full calendar year. I was informed that the only report I would be able to receive was for the whole stretch of McMullen Booth Road for all these violations, which was sent to me via email the same day. 170 pages of traffic stops, violations, or accidents that happened from Curlew Road to Tampa Road. My husband and I patiently went through each page and marked on each page any stop that happened on Curlew Road, Tampa Road, or Landmark Boulevard. We then calculated each month with these stops, violations, and accidents and found that the highest stops were from January 2019 through March of 2019, 116 stops. And then again from October 2019 through January 22nd, 2020, 200 additional stops. These totals are during the snowbird season, which shows the highest amount of traffic on this small 0.8 of a mile, which is the distance between Curlew Road and Tampa Road. The total stops that we counted were 459 out of 4,225 stops, which is a total of 10.9% made by the Sheriff's Office for all of McMullen Booth Road. I would certainly hope you would listen to the numbers. I would be more than happy to give you the 170-page report, and I thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline Mann.
Quick question before I start. If I want to put anything for visual, do I just set it down on this?
Right there on top of the seal there.
On top of this, oh, okay. Guess I need to move over a little bit then. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm ready. And I'm speaking for the group, so I believe I have 10 minutes, is that correct?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Mann. I'm one of the residents of Landmark Oaks Condos. And I'm here to represent not only the Board of Directors, but our homeowners and residents as well. As you probably know by now, Landmark Oaks is the residential community that's going to be most greatly affected should this parcel across the road be approved for zoning and land use change. We have 152 homeowner units, and as such, we are going to be affected not only visually, but affected by traffic, even if that traffic is only a 1% increase. I'm here to voice our collective concerns about the change. I want to mention that at the meeting of the LPA, I submitted, I believe the count was 78 petitions signed by our homeowner residents. I have an additional 32 petitions signed by our residents in opposition of this. That brings the total to 110, which is over 2/3 of our 152 homeowner units. We have several concerns that I want to address. Key and most importantly is the change to the zoning and land use, which is would be affecting the McMullen Booth Scenic Non-Commercial Corridor, which is currently in place. As you saw on the maps, that one little red square is in that whole stretch of green. That is the one area that would become a commercial property, meaning Dr. Picos's dental facility. We disagree with Mr. Bailey that it would not set a precedent. We believe it would set a precedent. The McMullen Booth Scenic Non-Commercial Corridor was established for a specific reason. Any change just etches away little by little and pulls the meaning and diminishes the meaning of what that corridor should be. Before I go into a little bit more detail about the residents' concerns, I do want to mention that at the December 2019 meeting with the LPA, there were 2 out of the 5 on that that headed up that group that opposed. So it was a 3-2 vote. It was not a unanimous vote in favor of the zoning and land use change. Certainly, there have been a number of medical facilities constructed on McMullen Booth, most in the vicinity of Meese Hospital. They are north of Meese, they are adding to Meese, they are across the street from Meese, but they are not north of Curlew. The only commercial, institutional, whatever you want to call it, building would be that particular 18,000 square foot building right across the street from the one and only entrance to Landmark Oaks. And I know that a concept plan was submitted. Do I put this face up or face down?
Face up.
Face up, okay. Does that show?
Not yet.
Not yet? There it is. Okay, so the concept plan, at least for me, is at the top. Dr. Picos does have an office in Trinity. This is a picture of his office in Trinity. I'm not a construction expert, but based on what I see on the concept plan, reading about the landscaping and setbacks and whatever, I believe that not only the 2 buildings, it's actually 3, that will be immediately impacted visually at Landmark Oaks. Every resident, 152 homeowner units, would be seeing this building instead of open space. To some, it's a trashy looking green hill. To us, it's greenery, it's open space. We have native wildlife that reside there. They nest in the trees in Landmark Oaks. So this is one of the reasons why we are opposed to the construction of this site. Not only 18,000 square foot, it's 1 story. It's probably a 1.5 or 2-story portico from guessing from the concept plan, plus a large parking lot, 16 trees that would be on the frontage to the property. 16 trees is not a lot of trees to block and screen Landmark Oaks from a proposed construction building. One of the other things that I want to mention is the anticipated traffic. I know that the traffic engineer, Mr. Razor, I believe it was, did a study. He did part of his study in August when school was not in session. He did part of the study in October when the snowbirds were not yet here. As residents of Landmark Oaks, we know what the traffic is like. We have to deal with it every day, going in, coming out. Some of us will leave early in the morning, earlier than we have to for those that teach, and leave perhaps a half hour early so that they can get across 3 lanes of McMullen in order to go north on McMullen. Some of us during peak hours will actually want to go northbound, but we turn southbound and we skirt around McMullen to Curlew to make a U-turn to go northbound. So any increase in traffic, and this is Pinellas County, let's face it, we have a lot of traffic. Any increase is going to be more traffic for those residents of Landmark Oaks. Our final point of opposition that we would like to mention, we certainly applaud Dr. Picos and his world-renowned business. We are not opposed to business. What we are opposed to is seeing a zoning and land use change for something that was designated as residential, open space, something like a park. We would love to see. That would be nice green space. We really prefer not to have a commercial building right across from the only entrance to Landmark Oaks. So on behalf of the homeowners, 152 homeowners, the 110 petitions that have been either submitted or are here for me to submit, we strongly oppose the building of a commercial facility such as this one across from us. And I am willing to answer any questions. In the meantime, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. No questions. Thank you.
Do I leave the petitions with anyone, or?
The clerk. Give them to the clerk.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Peter Schwayze.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Peter Schweiss. I am a resident at Landmark Oaks and president of the Homeowners Association. Really, the only thing I wanted to add to what Jackie had to say is that, you know, when most of us bought our units, the property that's in question was owned by Swift Mud. And it was our expectation that that zoning wasn't going to change because Swift Mud owned it, it would stay Swift Mud, and that property would stay the way it is. And one of the points that was brought up is that, you know, it's not going to be something that's going to whittle away. Like, it's not like the first domino to fall because the rest of the parcels around it are owned by the county or it's public land. Well, so is this parcel. So how long is it going to be until the rest of the parcels are also put up for sale or they're auctioned off because they're surplus property, which I think is what happened with this parcel. So we have no ill will toward Dr. Pico. I think he does wonderful work. In fact, I might be going to see him after some of the testimonials I heard. But at the same time, we're hopeful that, you know, he's not going to take up business across the street from us because it will impact our community. And I personally went out and got many of those petitions, and the unit owners that I spoke to are in fierce opposition to this. They don't want to see the zoning change. They want to see that property stay the way it is forever, for whatever that's worth, you know. But there are 152 units in our community, over 300 residents, and we will be impacted. I understand they did a traffic study. I'm sure the numbers were all correct, but I think they said in that study that the average speed on McMullen Booth Road was 46 miles an hour. I don't know if any of you have the opportunity to use McMullen Booth Road, but I pretty much can guarantee you that most of the traffic is either going 35 or 90. You know, it's not 46. So, you know, I would just ask that you please don't approve this. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand the applicant has some time left.
Yeah, minute 45.
You have a minute 45 seconds.
Don't start running it yet. Thank you. I'm going to speak as quickly as I can because I realize I am on the clock.
Okay.
With respect to the remarks in opposition, Ms. Lockwood, in terms of the traffic concerns, we believe and most importantly, your county staff also believes that our proposed improvements in the median will enhance safety and in fact is likely to reduce the number of accidents. We're taking a U-turn out of play at that median with the proposed improvements. With respect to the second speaker in terms of precedent and the buffers being inadequate, we are going more than twice the buffering of landscape that's required by your code. We're having a tree every 30 feet. We only have 400 linear feet on McMullen Booth, 16 trees. So I don't know what else we could provide. With respect to the final speaker and the concern of a precedent, your staff doesn't believe there's a precedent, and we don't either. If you look at those public properties that may be a concern, virtually all of them are inside of some sort of public use currently. There's stormwater ponds for FDOD. There's a Pinellas County stormwater pond. I can't imagine them relocating the ponds. There'd be no reason to do that. So we think that's not a valid concern. To allay any confusion, the requested change is to institutional, not commercial. There may be some confusion around that point, I'm not sure. And I think probably the single most important fact in assessing this case in terms of the buffering and the potential impacts of the neighbors, the buffer is McMullen Booth Road. That's 6 lanes of a divided road, an arterial that carries a lot of traffic. And we really don't think that the reasonable conclusion would be there's going to be any negative impacts to those folks, particularly given all of the restrictions contained in the development agreement, which is binding in perpetuity should this application be approved. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions of the applicants? No? Questions of staff? I will close the public hearing. Oops. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Seal. Good
I had to
job.
figure out, I found my request to speak.
All right.
I think this is one of those, it's an interesting case. However, I do believe that this is a minimal impact compared to what else could potentially go there with any other type of rezoning. And it seems to fit with the landscaping, the scenic designation and overlay that's been in there for some time. Certainly, I believe the median improvements will greatly make that much safer for the residents in Landmark Oaks. And so I would move approval.
Second. Commissioner Eggers.
Well, as I was listening to all the testimony and some things that I was listening and in favor of on the pro side, and I heard some things on the other side too that were compelling. I guess the big concern that I have is that this precedent thing is kind of kicking around back there. I do think there are some uses on there that will keep precedent from occurring. A government agency sold this knowingly to a private citizen with the idea that they couldn't use it for anything. Concerns me. I feel like there's some obligation to give some consideration for a request. I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking at the traffic counts, I'm looking at the median impact. I'd like to know a little bit more about the median in terms of how raised it is, and so it's not just a small speed bump for people to go from the office building across the street and then south, because I've seen those too. The development agreement that talks about the one-way in, one-way out, increased landscaping, the minimal height, earth tones on the I guess the colors of the building. I think they're all that make the development a reasonable development on what is a very busy corridor. And I don't know what the 1% of, or 0.5% of 1% of the existing traffic amounts to. Probably some large numbers, although the percentage is small. So I mean, I've really been wrestling with this because I do understand this whole issue of open space in our county, and I understand that people have in some areas have gone in with the expectation, reasonable expectation of it staying that way. I certainly understand your all's qualms with this, but I too think that this is probably a lowest impact development that could occur there. I think we owe something to a property owner that needs to have some use of a property. And I think this fits. I think that a lot of things have been done to alleviate the traffic concerns. I think a lot of things have been done to alleviate the aesthetic and the buffering. Maybe they can ramp up that buffering even more. I know it's above what our code requires by 2 times, but I still think there are some additional things that could be done to help out. So I would look to that group to talk to staff about that and perhaps put that into the development agreement, although I think what's being proposed is reasonable at this point. And certainly, I would ask them to reach out, again, to your neighbors. If you're really going to be neighborly about it, reach out. If you get approval tonight, that shouldn't be the end of it, as you said, Doctor. This should be the beginning of it, and find out what else, from an aesthetic standpoint, that could be done to help alleviate any of the concerns. But I do think the safety issue, I do like the median design, I do like what's been done from a development standpoint. I do feel like we owe some kind of development right there as a government agency sold it to them. So I will support the motion.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Seal, a second from Commissioner Long, and we're ready to vote. That is unanimous. Thank you. And that was our last thing. Have a good evening. We are adjourned.